Yay, we're live!
Yay!
I can't believe we're doing episode 2 of Pages to the Screen. I'm so excited. I made it a
Makes my
little bit
heart happy.
fancier with the background. Hi, Cynthia. Nice to see you. You guys, if you're watching this on the playback and you like this content and you want to support, just hit the thumbs up. Super easy. And if you feel so inclined, leave a comment as well. If you don't know what to comment, you can let me know what you want to see come to life on the screen, or how pretty you think Sam's hair is, whatever it is. Because all that engagement really helps me out with the Google overlords and how the algorithm is set up. So hit the thumbs up, super easy, and then you can also leave a comment and all that good stuff, and share this video with your book lover friends. But yeah, I'm so excited to be doing this. I want to talk about what we're reading right now. Before we get into our books, which you can see by the thumbnail which books we're talking about, I want to talk about what we're reading right now, or things that we've read recently that we liked.
I actually just finished November 9th
Oh,
by Colleen
Hoover.
something. Who is it? Yes. I just
Yeah.
finished reading that one
I see.
because it's everywhere. And I was like, okay, what is this? And it was really good. It was good. I had some setbacks while reading it. There were some things I wasn't too crazy about, but I very much liked it. Um, and I have actually been reading on my laptop. Like, I've been downloading books and reading them there. So this was the first book in a long time that I actually had physical. So it felt like home.
Yay. Okay, cool. This was a physical book. Okay. I heard she has like emotional books.
Which is why I've avoided her for as long as I have.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
heart just can't take what it used to.
I feel you. Like if a book, like I try to look up like the content and the trigger warnings prior, because for me it just ends up being a bummer and I'm actually not having a good time reading, and I just feel bad.
Yes.
And that's why I'm just into like the lighter, less
Yeah,
stressful.
because it sticks with you. You read it and you're like, well, life is stupid. Um, and it like I hold on to it and then like, you
Anxiety while reading.
yeah, and I'm like, and like I'll go back and forth. Like, I actually, a friend lent it to me, and I would just like every time I'd read a little bit, I was like, but do they die in the end? There's an accident, isn't there? Who doesn't make it? Like, I just assume the worst because that's what they set you up for. And then it's
Hmm.
just like so much anxiety, and then like a part of you is like really sick, and you love it because you're like, man, this is ridiculous, and then you just keep reading it. Um, but it just, it just it sticks with you. But this wasn't bad. I was told that this was one of her books that it was still good, but it wasn't as like gut wrenching. It hurts. It tears your heart out a little bit, but it wasn't, you could sleep at night. I was able to sleep. The
Hmm.
struggle was not too much. But I've heard her other books are a lot. So
Yeah,
we're gonna take a pause.
yeah, I won't be reading her anytime soon because I can't take it. Because I recently read
November
one.
9th, Cynthia,
Oh,
November 9th.
I'm not even. Here we go. She's talking about November 9th by Colleen Hooper.
Hoover?
Hooper?
Hoover?
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I know it
uh,
starts with an H, so I believe you.
yeah. It's on your TBR. Well, now you can move it up on your TBR because Sam said she liked it.
Yes, I did.
3 days.
I'm not giving any spoilers. It was really good. Um,
It's a
yes,
four-star rating.
there is some emotional damage, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be. It was able to, the damage is not permanent in my heart. So I think you're going to be okay. Unless you're not okay, then I take back everything I just said.
Well, prepare. There's your content warning. I have been reading more contemporary lately, and I read Talia Hibbert's Brown Sisters trilogy.
Ooh.
So I actually read something in order. I usually almost always read out of order because most of these romances can be read as standalones as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I started with the Get a Life, Chloe Brown, Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and Act Your Age, Eve Brown. I read all three. I did not love all three. I have like one favorite, but it was an interesting read. First of all, I didn't know that they would take place like in England, but they do. They all take place in England, and they follow these three sisters. They're all kind of like these privileged girls who have they all have very distinct personalities, and I enjoyed it because there was great representation in there, and that's what I like reading about um, different types of people, because there's things that I learned that I didn't really, there that are not in my everyday life. Like in the
Yeah.
first book, in the first book, the heroine, she lives with chronic pain. It's something with an F. I can't remember how to pronounce it, but she has chronic pain and she's living with that like daily. And it's tough because it looks like, nothing physically is wrong with her, but she's always like in constant pain.
It's awful.
And so she's had like some like emotional baggage because of that. And then the hero also has some trauma from his past. And like towards the end of this book, it was kind of like emotional damage for me. Cause like, like once he reveals his baggage, I'm just like, I just want to hold you.
Just when you think you're safe and you're like, oh no, it's okay. And then they just get you.
Cause it's like, cause I would say it's like a rom-com because it's funny. It's very sexy, but there's like some drama because usually these characters in all these books have some sort of like emotional trauma.
Right.
But these are like some of the most graphic sex scenes I have read. And these covers are, like they're like the animated illustrations. So I think because of that, you don't always know like the steam level, but
Yeah.
Talia Hibbert. And it's crazy because I've seen her in interviews and she kind of seems kind of like shy and reserved. I'm like,
It's the shy ones.
yeah, okay. Shy. Like, these sex scenes, like, some of the most detailed, graphic, and in contemporary that I've read. She's not afraid to go there. Which I appreciate. I
You
appreciate
love the steam.
I appreciate the open doors. I do, because again, like, I feel like I get to learn about different types of cultures and different types of things from different people when I read these books. So, so I do appreciate it. I'm not a fan of like the closed door sex scenes. I mean, I know some people aren't into reading the sex scenes, but it's like I'm in the romance genre for a reason. It's like my jam.
Right.
Like,
you want to know.
Exactly.
You want to know how are we feeling, Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
I want to see it all. But yeah, so that's what we're reading for now. I did add my Goodreads link to my description because I did get like a Goodreads just to like keep track and rate stuff. I'm mostly rating stuff so that I can get good recommendations when I'm seeking new books to read. So check that out. And also check the movie club and all of our socials down in the description below. Yay. But without further ado, let us start our actual show, which is books that we would love to see come to life on the screen. I see that Sam chose The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but I'm sure
I
I
don't
butchered
know
it.
either.
Yeah. But what about this book?
So this is another one that I saw kind of everywhere, and I kept hearing people like talk about it, and I kept like reading little things about it. So I was like, okay, let me try it. And this was one that I was able to get on my laptop. And so basically, it is about our main character, Stella, who has Asperger's, and she's just kind of, going through life as anybody else would. And she's struggling with dating, and I just really liked it because this is going to sound kind of ignorant of me, but I've never read a book that the lead was on the spectrum at all. So I was just really curious, and I was like, okay, like there's a lot that I think a lot of us don't know, and it was just interesting to see the struggles that she went through, with her Asperger's, but aside from her Asperger's. And then she basically is having not great luck with men. But she wants to date. She wants to be more comfortable. So she hires a male escort to like teach her to be comfortable sexually, to actually date. And so it was just really interesting. And like, I don't want to say bizarre, but it was bizarre for me because I've never read anything like it. And it was my first book that was steamy. I knew you would be so proud. It was really weird because I was reading these like graphic sex scenes, and I'm like, Melissa would be so proud of me right now. And that's inappropriate, but it's true.
But what was the
I didn't know that.
I didn't know
Cynthia said
that
that, yeah. So it was I really liked that. Oh, I'm so happy that you girls are proud of me for reading the
Yes.
steam.
Like, are you into the steam?
I was, and I didn't even know it was steamy. I read it honestly because
So I get it. Yeah.
what?
The cover, like these animated covers, you don't know what you're in for, because like that cover, you wouldn't guess that it's steamy, but yeah.
No, I just thought it was, regular romance novel, and I had heard about it, and I heard like good things. But for whatever reason, I don't know if people didn't really talk about it or if I just missed that people were talking about that it was like steamy. But yeah, like the male lead, whose family is from Vietnam. So like you had like different cultures and stuff, and he's teaching her the ways, and he's like doing like regular dating stuff, but also just like super sexual things. And I was just like,
Well, that tracks because he's a male escort, and she did purposely hiring him
she did,
to her sex,
she
which
did, she did.
I kind of like how that sounds, because it sounds like she wanted to take control of something. This is the way that she found it, and she's gonna explore.
Right, and I feel like, it's kind of a taboo subject for a lot of people with the, escorts and stuff. But like I was rooting for him, and I was like, he's a person too. He just wants love. And it was just really interesting. It was a different dynamic that I wasn't used to reading. So it's basically their story of them getting to know each other and him kind of showing her the ways of dating and romance and sex and all of that. And of course, things ensue. And it was definitely a little cliche. Exactly, exactly. She had a hard time with her past. I don't even know if you could call it relationships, but with the men in her past who just were not kind to her, being kind of nervous or being uncomfortable with herself, and so she just needed someone so she could practice. Um, and it was definitely a little cliche. The steam was enough for me to move past the cliches, but there were some where I was just like, oh my god, just stop. Just
Cynthia wants you to drag the book. Can you go more into why it was cliche?
it was like, okay, so there's a character who it's her coworker. His name is Philip. And I understand that people suck and people are assholes and they say like really inappropriate things. But it was just this character, Philip, like there's a scene where she's like working on a Saturday and this man is walking through the office with like a bag of condoms. And I think he like goes to the office on a Saturday to like pick the condoms up. Um and he's like, "Oh, what are you? Oh, you're working on a Saturday?" And then like it's obvious that he has these bag of condoms, and then he just keeps saying like inappropriate things. He says something along the lines of like, take it from a guy who's been around the block. This is what guys like and what guys don't like. And it was just such a cliched like douchebag, which I know they exist, but just what? What is happening? This man is has like a huge box of condoms, telling her that he's been around the block, and then he just like leaves. And it was just really like it just didn't make sense. I don't know.
Is this the hero?
Huh? No, God, no. It's like some douchebag she works with.
Oh, okay.
It was just weird. It was just really weird. And I was like, well, who is this? Where is this coming from? And then, and then I understood that we needed to see how she wasn't comfortable with herself, and the whole reason of her hiring this escort was so she hired him to be better. And I get that that was her truth, but it's just kind of, it bothered me a little bit because I was like, man, like she's so much more than her Asperger's. And I get that this is the story, she needed to overcome that, But I guess a part of me, like a little part of me was bothered that like it took a man for her to realize that like she was more than being on the spectrum. I'm still glad that she, spoiler alert, eventually gets there. But I was
Yeah.
just like, man, like that kind, like she's like a genius. She's so successful. Like she has this great job that she loves. Like she has so many things going for her, and it's just, and it wasn't her. It was the douchebags that she was dating that would take advantage of her, or didn't really like make a real effort. And
Mhm.
then I think it was just kind of obvious. Are we doing spoilers?
Yeah, go off.
Okay. I think it was pretty obvious that they were gonna end up together. Um,
Yeah.
it's just which
Isn't that
like
most
get it.
romance in romances?
Right, which but I was just like I think we had talked about this before too, and I can't remember for what book it was that it was like it gets to the point. Oh, it was for the last Bridgerton book that we were talking about. Uh
The
and
Viscount? Right?
yes, the Viscount. Uh
Mm.
so they do the back and forth where they were like, "Oh, it's I'm just hiring him. He doesn't really love me." And then he's like, "Oh, she just hired me. She doesn't really care for me." And I get that we need a little bit of that, but it gets to the point where I'm like, "Okay, just say it. Just say it to the person. Like, we've dragged this out for so fucking long. She's telling you that she's never climaxed with anybody else. You're
Mhm.
saying that you've never felt this way. Like, I think it's pretty obvious. Like, let's not play the game where, like, oh, I don't know. Like, you both are grown adults. Shut the fuck up.
But I'm guessing what stops them from confessing is their own internal hangups.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, which I understand and I get, I do. Um, but it definitely got to the point where it was just too much of a cliche. And then, like, Um, and then the Philip, her coworker, comes back in the picture. Like his character, I don't know why we needed. I just felt like it was kind of unnecessary. Like he was so awkward in the beginning, like it didn't make sense. And then he shows up and like they go on like one date where he's like kind of inappropriate. Like I think he tries to kiss her and she's like, no, but he doesn't like that. And
Mhm.
then like the next day at work, he tells someone that they're dating and that he doesn't want her talking to anybody else. And I'm like, what? It just it just didn't make sense to me. I feel like I even went back and I'm like, did I miss a chapter? Where how did we get here? And then like he's like supposed to be this like suave guy because he's telling a coworker that he's dating Stella, the main character. He's
Mhm.
saying this to another woman in the office who he's sleeping with. Yes,
Douche. Douche.
right. Like super douche. But I'm like, and the girl didn't mind, and she was just like, and I was like, do we need this? Is this whole thing necessary? What? I
Right.
just it was I don't know. It was a little unnecessary for me.
I've seen like mixed reviews on this book, on
Yeah.
Goodreads. Um, so what is it about this story that you feel like should be on screen? Like, why does it deserve the on-screen treatment?
I think because I mean I know that there are stories with people on the spectrum from different cultures, but I just feel like we don't see them a lot, and I'd like to see it more. And I feel like I've only ever seen I saw I think a show on Netflix, and
Mhm.
oh god, I forgot what it's called, but it was this guy that was on the spectrum, and he was just he's just trying to live his life normally, and a lot of it is about romance and him trying to find a partner, and he's also gay, and it's like he's just going through these things where there's nothing like different per se about it, but it was just so interesting because I feel like we don't get to see a lot of leads that it wasn't atypical, but that is also an amazing show on Netflix. It was something else. I want to say it was like special, something special or special something, but Atypical is another one. Ooh, I love that show. If you've not seen Atypical on Netflix, go watch it.
Mhm.
It's a high schooler. He's also on the spectrum, and it's just that show is fantastic. But I also like that because the main character is this young boy, and I just feel like we don't see a lot of that. And then the male lead in the book is his family's from Vietnam, and we meet his family, so you just see a different culture, and it's just nice. I feel like I really, and it's also bad on my part because I guess I've never like exposed myself to books like that. And I read this by accident. I didn't know she was on the spectrum. I didn't know the male lead, that his family was from Vietnam. I didn't know that we were going to get all these things. And I was reading it and I'm like, this is amazing. Like it's just stuff that I feel like it's not mainstream. And so I feel like I'd like to see something like this, even with the cringe and stuff, because many things are cringy. But I would like to see something like this where we see people that look different than how we usually see, the perfect male, the perfect lead, female lead. Like it's just, I don't know. I really enjoyed that it came from like a different perspective. And the fact that Cynthia had mentioned that the author is also on the spectrum, that just makes it more of a win for me personally.
Yeah, and I touched on this a bit before, but I think like books and movies are, because like we're not always in control of like what we're surrounded by, just because of how like socioeconomics are set up. But I think like books and movies can be a good way for us to expose ourselves to different types of people, and that could be like different races or cultures, or you can discover new types of challenges that some people go through. Like the book that I had read with that chick who has a chronic pain, like I feel like if I were to meet someone with that, I would have some sort of empathy for them because I've read how it's described and how painful and how lonely and how it could affect relationships. So I like that you would want to see this because of the rep that it would present for a lot of people, because that way, because like movies and TV shows are sometimes like empathy machines, like they kind of like share a world that we would never be able to see if we didn't have these in the media.
Right. And I feel like it's a lot like to see people that look like you on screen, or to read about people that have similarities to your personality, to your culture, if you're on the spectrum, like it makes a difference. It like, I don't know. When I see people on screen that look like me, I'm like, it makes me really happy and it makes me want to watch whatever it is. And so I feel like it's important to have more stories like that. And I was looking up the show that I was talking about. Okay, so it's called Special and it's on Netflix. It's just called Special. And it's just like it's a young guy, and he's literally just like trying to live his life. Like he wants to move out of his his home with his mom and like be on his own, but he has some setbacks, and it's because he is on the spectrum, but like he's just like anybody else. And I don't know, it was such a good show. I don't know if it's still on, but it's very good. And yeah, so I really like the different representation for me.
Awesome. And we gave you guys like TV show recommendations as well. There's Atypical, Love on the Spectrum, and
Special.
Special. There you go.
Yes. And also the steam was good for me. I didn't even know. I truly, because I also sometimes don't read like the back of the book. I don't read. I don't want to know what's going on. You know how I am about spoilers. So I think I had read like 2 sentences of what this book was about. And it was just like a love story. And I want to say I maybe read that it was a love story that like, it was like an awkward girl that like gets like help from somebody else. Like, I don't even know what I read. And I was like, yeah, I'll try it. So then I'm starting to read. I was like, oh, they are in the hotel room. I'm like, she is undressing. And I was like, am I going to read a sex scene right now? And I was like, whoa. Yeah. And then they just kept coming after that, literally. And, I just.
Has this opened up a new door for you? Are you going to be, hold on, Marcia is literally FaceTiming me. I'm going to let her join to see that I'm doing a show. Hey, I'm doing a show right now. And I'm obviously not watching. Say hi to Sam.
Hi, Paco.
Hi, Paco.
Get into YouTube, bitch, and watch my show.
How do I look for you guys?
Okay, I posted the latest link on my stories. You can watch us there, but I've got to go because I'm doing a show with Sam right now.
Keeping it real, Mel. Keeping it real.
Love you guys.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Hey,
Keeping it real.
Chris. I haven't seen you in a minute. Welcome. We just talked about the Kiss Quotient. So make sure you
Kissing
watch the
Quotient.
playback. Make sure you watch the playback to get all of the news and why we want to see it on screen.
And also to look at my mug.
Look at the mug. I hope this leads you to read more steamy novels, because when it's done right with the right characters and the right story, it could be really satisfying. And a lot of the times they do serve a purpose. They kind of like go to this emotional arc with the characters. So you could learn more about the characters, and like it advances the story in a lot of ways. Like I had read like 3 books ago this other story about how, I mean, I can go into it, but we'll talk after. I mean, I'm just saying, hopefully you could be more of this.
I think I will be side messaging you. I need to read like 1 or 2 more books that I need to give back to somebody. And after that, I think I might bother you to be like, so what else can I read?
Yes. I will be here for you. From one spicy novel to another, my choice was Snapped by Alexa Martin. This book was on my TBR for a minute, and I finally read it last month. I actually read the whole series, and I think this is the last book to the series. I never read these books in order. I think this is the first one. It's 4 books, and I read this one first, but they're all like standalones. And I think this is her debut series as well, and I think it was a pretty cool debut. So the series follows a group of friends who all live in Colorado. All the heroes are NFL players, and it is based on. It's not based on her life, but she was an NFL wife for 8 years. The author, you know, they always say write what you know, so she writes what she knows. For this one though, I really liked it though because it is a quintessential rom-com. It is romantic, but it is also funny. And I think it's kind of like made to be a script, because I would say these characters break that fourth wall a lot. Like if you were to watch this instead of reading it, like they would do like the whole like, I'm gonna look into the camera and talk to the audience right now. Like it's like made to be seen that way. And that's how she brings in like a lot of the humor with that internal dialogue with the heroine speaking to the audience as it's like a diary of sorts. But it follows the heroine, who is basically, she's in strategy communications for the NFL, and he is an NFL player. And one day he takes a knee, and she's kind of like freaking out. She's like, he didn't tell me he was going to do this. And this job though is not just a job to her. It is like her lifelong dream. And it also was her dad's lifelong dream for her to have this job. And the dad in the book has passed away already. Okay. So this job is not just a job to her. It's like her dream. It's her dad's dream. So she's already like under a lot of pressure and feels like she has to prove herself. You know, once Quentin takes a knee, she's immediately assigned to him to work with him to talk about like, how do they navigate this? What are they going to say? You know, like, why didn't he tell anybody and whatnot? And I liked the Marcia asked, random question, but what are you guys in the same house right now? No, we're not in the same house. We are in separate houses, Marcia. Thank you for tuning in. Marcia, hit the thumbs up and leave a comment about what your favorite book is, because I need the comments. Thank you, girl. Where was that? Yeah, so it's just about them working together to navigate the story. Like, he took a knee, what is going on? And I really enjoyed the book because I got to learn more about football reading. This was my first sports romance, and I got to learn more about the world of football. And in each of the books do kind of tackle some more serious topics, but this is the only one that's kind of more taking a stand and talking about the racial disparity amongst the players and the coaches, and also like the lack of the proper healthcare for the football veterans, like the retired football players. Because, like, spoiler alert, um, Quentin, the hero, kind of feels like a slave to the organization. Like, he has to keep on working and being in the NFL so that he could provide for his family. And one member of his family, his father, I think he has like dementia, and it's caused by all of the head injuries that he had when he played football. The legacy, yeah, exactly.
That is rough.
It's rough, man. It's rough. And I guess he got like a horrible pension because they didn't really take care of him, even, when he was going through all of this. So Quentin has the weight of the world on his shoulders because he has to keep on playing for this organization that doesn't take care of its people, because like he needs the money to take care of his father and his whole family. And I thought it was really interesting also because heroine is biracial, and just like the author, she even has like this whole acknowledgement in the beginning of the book saying, she doesn't know Colin Kaepernick, and she's just, writing the story through her lenses. Because I think there's also a great discussion in here about how she grew up being biracial, but she was raised by her white dad. So of course he taught her everything about how, like, we don't see color, it doesn't matter, we treat everybody the same, blah, blah, blah. So I think it's hard for her to immediately acknowledge something as being racist, especially in the position that she's in. Like, she is a Black woman working mostly around men, and her boss is white. So she has something to prove already, and she doesn't want to lose her job because she loves her job. So she has to really kind of like play on that line of like, well, no, like, let's try to, take a step back and see what this is. But then, like, like, the hero is also doing the work of showing her like, no, like, they're just being like plain racist. Like, yeah, but because, and for me, because I saw some people on Goodreads saying like they couldn't really like connect with like the heroine on that, but I feel like I had empathy for her because of how she was raised. Like, if that's all that you knew and that's all that you were taught, like, you're not that's not gonna like unlearn it just because this one incident. So I liked how at the end of the book they have like a real conversation about it, her and the hero, and she does talk about how she's going to like therapy as well, and she does end up telling she does end up telling her horrible boss off because she finally brings something up that's like blatantly racist, and he's like, no, like, you're just like looking into it wrong, like, you people are blah, blah. And of course, like, fucking people say that shit. It is a microaggression. Why does nobody notice this? Stop, you people. It's racist as fuck. Exactly. So when that happens, she finally has enough and leaves. But I like that we got to see like her journey there, so like I've seen like some of the criticism, but I think she kind of had to kind of go through that and like learn. And like I said, I think I had a lot of empathy for that because her and her dad were very close, and I think he probably did like grow up like throughout the 60s during the whole segregation thing. And even when you are like on the right side of history, saying things like we don't see color is not really helpful because obviously people are being treated differently because of their skin color. So color does matter. So yeah, I think it had a lot to say about a lot of different things about growing up biracial, the racial disparity in the NFL, and the writer being an NFL wife. I felt like it was really cool for her to write this kind of story because it's not super pro NFL. And I wonder if, because her husband only played for 8 years, and I wonder, I mean, I don't know the average of how many years people play, but I wonder if he like ended up leaving early so that he could stop getting his like brain hit over and over again. I should look. No, that's like it's scary. But yeah, it's funny. Oh, and it's also like a slow burn romance, and it is also an enemies to lovers because when they first meet, he tells her right away, "You're not my type," and he kind of starts
Oh.
off. I know he kind of starts off like a little bit pushy, but of course,
Cynthia.
like, why are you blah? This is
That
why
was.
do you want it? Yeah, I get it. I get it.
I
Um,
love Ariel.
yeah. Um, yeah, so it's like an enemies to lovers. But then they get to a place where they are cordial and then they become like more like friends. There's this great scene that takes place during Halloween, which was her and her dad's favorite holiday. So she always feels more sad. And then he comes over, he says, I don't have any traditions. Can I spend it with you so that you could, show me how you do Halloween? And then he has like the fucking pumpkins that they could carve at his house and the
Oh,
candy to give to the kids. Yeah, it was
oh,
very sweet. I love sweet heroes. Um, and it also does get spicy. And I always appreciate books that include like clear consent and also contraceptives. Like there's a scene where like he's grabbing the condom, he's ripping open the condom, everything like that. I always appreciate that because you don't actually see those parts in rom-coms on TV. So
right.
I always make note of that, and I'm like, yes, Alexa, Mom, you better write that in. Love
We
that.
love consent.
We do. But like more clear consent needs to be written. Yeah, so
It's true. It's true because when you see these movies and shows and they're missing that part. So I feel like people like think that it's awkward to like talk about that where no, it's not. I'd
yeah,
like
and
you to ask for consent. Thank you
I
very
wish
much.
our culture would notice that like asking is so sexy. It's so hot. Like because the whole participation and the want is what's going to make this a
Yeah.
pleasurable experience.
Right. We both want to be
Like,
here.
yeah. And I feel like a lot of times in movies or shows, it's always just like assumed.
Yeah.
But you just can't always assume and be sure. So I always make note of that when I see it, and I appreciate it. So yeah, this touches all the great points for me. It's funny, it is romantic, it is a satisfying slow burn. You get to see like a whole like journey of them being kind of like prickly towards each other and then becoming more cordial because they're working together and then being friends and then like getting into a romantic sexy relationship. And
Fair enough.
there is some great social commentary. So I think this is something that I would want to see on the screen because I know that we got Will Smith's concussion movie years ago, but I think this needs to be talked about more for sure.
Yeah.
It's gonna go out and play that sport, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. Yeah, so I loved it, and you guys should definitely check it out. Um, is there anything else that you wanted to say, Sam, about your book, or anything
It's
about like Romancelandia or reading anything?
um I don't it's I liked it. I think that there's some hype to it and I've seen the split comments about it and I feel like for the representation alone for me, I think it's worth it. And I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of these books are cliche. Yeah,
Yeah.
Dalix!
Who's here?
Shout
Oh,
out to Dalix.
hello, Dalix.
She
Yes, consent, baby.
we do love it. We do.
I
Dalix
feel like
gets it.
I want to ask you, are you opposed to cliches or tropes? Because I feel like I'm okay with a formula as long as it's still like executed well, you know?
I'm I'm okay with a little cliche. I think it can be kind of sweet sometimes,
Hmm.
but I just like I'm okay with a couple of eye rolls here and there. You're like, all right, whatever. But I think it gets to a point for me, like with the Bridgerton book that we had talked about before, and then now with this one, I just feel like it gets to the point where it's just too long for me. Like just spit it out. Like just
Okay, so
these like little
your book sounded like it was repetitive, which can happen sometimes.
maybe a little repetitive. Just I don't know. I just feel like the cliche is just like I'm okay with some. I'm okay with the little sporadic cliche. You want to sprinkle that on top of the book, go for it. But when
Yeah.
it's like a consistent, I'm just like, okay,
I think like part of the joy of romance is like you know what you're gonna get, because like you know that they're going to end up together, but like what's more entertaining is how do the characters get there. That's what's like the juiciest part of the.
yes, but also, I mean, I'm probably talking shit because a part of me wants to see something where like maybe they don't end up together. I don't know. I want to say that, but then if they don't end up together, I'll probably be super upset.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just don't like it when it's so obvious. Like when I was the book that I was just telling you about before, November 9th,
Mhm.
it um where how it ends, I won't say how it ends, but how it ends wasn't like really like you didn't know if they were together. You didn't know if they were just going to be friends, if they were going to hate each other. Like I feel like it gets to a point in the book where you're like, all right, I know where this is going. And what I
Mhm.
liked about that book is that you didn't really know where it was going, and like the ending isn't what you think. It's not a sad ending, it's not a bad ending, it's not a happy ending. It's like it's just different. And so I liked that you didn't know where it was going.
Mm.
Like you really don't know, at least, or maybe I'm an idiot and I just didn't get it, but I did not know where that book was going. So I liked that it wasn't so obvious. So I feel like I'm okay with books like this that are a little bit obvious, but then I need to like I can't read them back to back. Like my next one needs to be something that's maybe not so cliche or so obvious with what's going to happen.
That's interesting because all I want to read is happily ever afters.
I do love a good happily ever after,
Yeah.
but I just don't like where I can when I can see it a mile ahead. I like surprises, and
Hmm.
I like the airport run in where they're gonna get on the plane and you gotta stop them and you don't know if you're gonna get to the gate in time,
I love
you know,
waffle.
and then they miss they already go through check-in, so you're like, oh my god, they're never gonna make it, but then they buy a ticket that they can't afford and they meet them at the gate and then they're sitting on the plane. I love that. Give that to me all day because you don't know if the plane already took off. I love that because you don't know. I like the happy ending, but I want a little suspense.
Maybe you could try, because romance novels have. Sorry if you hear my dog. Romance novels have so many subgenres. There are some that have the suspense, like romantic suspense, but usually because there's some sort of like other subplot going on. I'm not really a
Yeah.
big fan of books because I'm like literally, I've noticed I'm literally just there for the romance.
You just want the steam. You're like, just kiss already.
But disclaimer, I don't only love steamy books because like two, 3 weeks ago, I read a book. I'm forgetting the name. Is it called? I think it's called What a Match, and I gave it like a 3 stars because I just thought it was like fine. And though like that book did have like steamy scenes that were like explicit and very descriptive, but
Mhm.
I didn't ever really feel the right amount of tension and like sexual chemistry between the characters. So for me, like steam only pays off if I'm invested in the characters being together.
Yeah.
So I don't like I don't only like steamy novels for the steam of it. Like I need to be pulled into their story and like want to see them
Right.
together.
I get you.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. But I feel like you should, obviously definitely read them more because they're a
Yes.
lot of fun.
I'll be looking for recommendations soon.
Yes. I'm excited. I think your author, I think this is a series that she has. So you might want to look into
Is
this
it?
too. I think so.
Ooh, well, I'll have to look into that.
I've seen it on Bookread. I just want to highlight this because this deserves a highlight. Consent,
does.
baby.
Anything
Yes.
Dalek says deserves a highlight. She is, just as a human being, chef's kiss.
Daily, if you're still here, please hit that thumbs up. I need the engagement for the algorithm. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're watching this on the playback, as I said, hit the thumbs up if you like this content. Share it with your book nerd friends. Click all the pretty nice links at the bottom of the description to contact us and be friends with us on social media. And we'll see you next time for episode 3. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Bye.